Hello and welcome to our Midweek podcast, First Baptist Church Sweetwater. My name is Jerry Hendricks and I'm here with Teak Hamilton. Hello, Teak.
Hi, Jerry.
I hope you're having a great day.
I am having a great day.
Well, it's because it's a top-off Jeep day, right?
It is. It's been that way all week. It's been great.
That's been fun. Well, it's definitely that time of the year and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a little sunny, so I gotta wear a hat, losing some hair back here, and gotta keep sunburn off. But other than that, it's really good.
Good deal. Teak, I'm looking forward to Sunday. I've already shared that with you.
Right.
But one of the reasons I'm looking forward to Sunday is, well, let's be honest, I look forward to most Sundays.
Right.
This one in particular, because I like looking at the description of the early church.
Uh-huh.
And we probably see that in these verses more than any verses in the Bible, and condensed anyway. And so it's always fun to think about what church was like and what church is like now.
Right.
Well, except church is different now.
We have air conditioning.
And we're meeting in homes now.
Right.
And
This kind of sounds familiar.
we're sending out a live stream.
Right.
Doing a lot of things different. But as we've said throughout the last few weeks, that we are understanding that the church is not a building, and that has become more than just a phrase or a t-shirt,
Right.
which are available online. But it has become us understanding that it's the people that make up the church. And when you look at different ways that we can do church, it has definitely been a stimulation to our creativity and thinking through how we can do things and how we can be engaging and experience community together throughout this strange process. But it's going to continue for a while in terms of a strange process, not only live streaming, but as we kind of begin to experience life together at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like it, but got to do it.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. We get into that on the last Sunday in May. We'll start transitioning back or opening up our doors for worship on Sunday mornings, and by then
it'll still be different.
Yeah, we'll have different guidelines, I'm sure, or at least better defined guidelines on how we can do that.
Because the situation, and it might be the first time we said it, the situation really is fluid.
Yes, we haven't said that since like the first 2 weeks of all this.
I didn't know we said that.
Spring break. Okay, I overdid that, and you're making fun of me, but that's okay.
Just having fun with the statement.
Oh, there you go. Hey, Teak, I was going to ask you, who is your favorite storyteller?
Well, we talked about this ahead of time, so I know you're expecting me to say Lisa Aker.
No, I did.
She tells
Wait,
stories.
Time out. I did not expect you to say that one. That was not prepared or scripted in any way.
She's a storyteller.
You're throwing me a curve, and that's a baseball term.
It is. But my favorite storyteller, as good as Lisa is not Lisa, it's Bob Goff.
Bob Goff.
We've got to see him live, and then also listen to him. He reads his own book, Love Does. He's a good storyteller.
He is good. I had not thought of him before I asked you that question, but I am reading along in the devotional book, 365 Devotions.
Yep.
Which means for Bob, 365 stories.
Right.
And so he always uses a story from, I guess, mostly from his life, or I guess all of them are from his life and experience.
He's had a lot happen in his life.
And then makes a point with that along with Scripture. So
he's the only reason I would actually want to go to Disneyland or World, whichever one it is where Tom Sawyer's Island is that he hangs out at.
Oh, really?
That's the only reason I would want to go there.
Well, there you go. Not me. Anyways, moving on. My favorite storyteller is not on air anymore. He retired, but his name is Garrison Keller, or some say Keeler. But he had the last live radio show that was in existence. I believe that's the way that they said that. Prairie Home Companion was the name of the show. And even after I moved to Sweetwater, a lot of times on Saturdays I would go to Abilene to do laundry, and then on my drive back I would time it where I could listen to him tell his stories. And he creates these stories in this fictional community in fictitious.
I don't know. I was gonna go with
I was
it.
saying,
Sounded good to
yeah.
me.
Well, it's sheltering is hard. Anyways, you don't use your communication skills, you lose them.
Right.
So there you have it. He tells stories about this fictitious. Is that right?
Sure.
Community in Minnesota, Lake Wobegon, and it was always kind of my relaxing point. I used to listen to a lot of his stories on tape back when cassette tapes, not 8 tracks. So, anyways, but he's probably my favorite storyteller.
Another good one that brings back memories when you said an older one, Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey told good stories.
I loved listening to his stories. I hated listening to when he told the news.
Right.
But I loved hearing, I think it was like 5:30 it would come on and we'd be out in Pop Shop and he'd have it on and we'd listen to him tell whatever story it was. And he was real good at kind of the pauses and how he told the story. So
right. Had a really great voice for that too.
Yeah.
So, well, one of the things that we've been talking about this week in preparation for Sunday, and for whatever reason, we've spent more time this week talking about, I think, an upcoming message, but is we're thinking about the church and the experience that we have in sheltering and people learning to do church in different ways, parents learning to lead worship in their home throughout the week, not just during Sunday morning worship, but also through the activities that we're providing online. It gives us a real different perspective. And so I began to wonder this week as I was looking at this text and thinking about it. And the questions that I was asking myself, I guess, for us is, I wonder what stories our children will tell when they have children.
Right.
I know when we moved, well, I'm not going to share that story. I may use that Sunday. But my children grew up mostly either distanced. Man, speaking today is difficult. They grew up a long ways from their grandparents.
Okay.
And then their grandparents died relatively early. So they pretty much have grown up without grandparents. And so, but when we moved back to Abilene, Sarah would talk about the stories that she would hear from her grandmothers. Right. And of course, one of them lived with us for a while. So, but anyways, so I just got to wondering, this is hopefully a once in a lifetime event.
Right.
Not many of us have, even those of us who've lived for a longer time, have experienced anything of this magnitude.
Right.
So it's going to be something that people talk about for a long time.
Well, most definitely. I mean, you think about even recent events like September 11th, things like that happened that impacted all of us in such a way. And that was almost a moment in time as it happened, and we saw it over, maybe a couple of days of seeing it kind of play out. But this is something that's impacted everybody around the world for over a month and a half now, and so it's definitely going to have longer, I guess, storytelling ramifications.
Yeah. So, but what we're hoping is that we can begin to, in our personal context of worship and ministry, personal worship and ministry, that we can start to frame those stories in our own hearts. And I know that's one of the reasons that I journal, and doesn't come natural to me. It's something that I've only started practicing a few years ago. But the reason I do that, or one of the reasons, is it does bring context to either what I'm personally experiencing or what's going on around me. And I think that's going to be important for us to start, as we start preparing to regather, that we don't miss the opportunity to capture those stories.
Right.
It's kind of like driving down the road and you see an opportunity for a picture, a beautiful scene or whatever. And if you don't pull over immediately and take that, you've missed it. Taking it out the window is not the same.
Nope.
Traveling with speed or anything like that. So you have to stop and take time and invest that time to capture that picture. And I think that's the way these stories are as we think about our children, particularly our children growing up, remembering, because they'll remember those stories and that experience from their perspective as an event that happened, but they may not have message and meaning that go behind it.
Right.
Because just like a lot of experiences that that families go through, children are not necessarily aware of the anxiety that parents feel.
Right.
So parents are at home all week with their children, plus leading worship on Sundays. It's a whole different deal, whole different world.
And what a sad story if all we hear from children 10, 15, 20 years down the road is that they got an entire semester or half a semester off from school and they got to stay home.
Right.
They had an extended spring break.
Well, and I think
hopefully there's more to it than that.
Well, I think one of the things that we're already starting to discuss is will people come back to church, and have they quit going to church altogether? And so we don't know how all of this will work out in the future. I do believe that it's an opportunity that's unparalleled for the modern church,
Right.
and it's anytime there's a crisis in my life or in my family's life, that's an opportunity for me to learn and to draw close to God
Right.
and to deepen my relationship and walk with Him. And that's what we're leading toward through this series and in our experience as church and worship.
Yeah, it's been a unique experience that has challenged us, I know, as leaders, to be the ones who kind of think about what this means for us as we lead in church ministries and how we convey that through this experience and convey it to homes, but then also thinking about the regathering aspect of it, of how we continue to keep this moving, because we've learned some really good stuff during this time that's important, especially in our area of theology, like thinking about God and what the church is, and that it's not just going to a building.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Well, and we've talked all along how our experience has reinforced things that we were already saying.
Right.
But we were saying them with such routine that I think maybe even we had lost the real meaning or message behind it.
Right.
And so hopefully we can come into this with ears sharpened, ready to hear, and hearts ready to accept and to see what God wants to do next through us.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, it's been fun chatting with you today. I consider you a great storyteller.
Thanks.
Liar.
When you first asked the question, I said that we're talking about people who tell fish stories.
That's right.
Because I've got a lot of friends who tell me fish stories, and they can show me without pictures how big the fish was they caught.
Okay, so if people listen all the way to the end, this is sort of like an outtake. So
that's true.
But
I can start calling names if we need.
True. Next week we'll be naming names.
Yes.
Teak will name names. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to being a part of your family, our life on Sunday through our live stream and worship. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully around May 31st.
See you then.